Login accepted.
If you guys haven't already, also please download PacketTracer. It's also the link below.
The packet tracers down there?
Huh?
Does that actually lead to the packet? Are you sure?
The website. At least that's what they set up last time.
Because I remember on Tuesday when I did it, it just led me to the document. Yeah, type it.
Oh, bruh. Okay, hold on.
It's the one.
Oh, it's one of these. It's one of these.
No.
This one.
Already told them we go.
So I just refreshed the link for you guys, so that should work. It's gonna prompt you to make an account, but don't worry, it's free software. Yeah, you have to register in order to download it. Okay, so while you guys are downloading, we're going to get ready to get started. So once again, become a member, please. And sign up for Hivestorm. The date is coming up pretty soon. So if you haven't already, please look into signing up for the competition.
For Hivestorm, make sure if you have a team already, make sure you fill out the Google form first and then register with Hivestorm. The Google form is just for us to like keep track of all the teams. If you don't have a team, the Google form also has like a option where you say like you don't have a team and we'll help you like create a team for you. But yeah, make sure you get that in before the 30th. And yeah. And if you're filling out the Hivestorm registration and it asks for the coach's information, just DM me or Sydney and we'll give it to you. Thank you.
So briefly, we're going to go over a small refresher for packet tracer concepts, just so you guys can be a little bit more familiar with the things that we're going to see. So once again, here's the command modes. So when you enter the command line interface for either a switch or a router, in this case, you guys are going to do the router. You're not really going to touch the switch, but you have to enter different modes in order to do different things. So for example, if you wanted to change or set up one of your interfaces for one of your networks that you're going to be doing, you have to go into that interface specifically. So yeah. And also, if you are in a interface configuration mode, if you type the word do as a little hint, it will allow you to do commands for other modes in that mode. So another hint here is the question mark. So if you are typing in a command and you don't really know what your options are, or you're a little lost on what you can do, if you complete your command with a question mark, it shows you all of your available options. So for example, here it's showing your running config, and say I don't know what I want to do with running config. Here's my options. I could do all, I could do VLAN, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is going to be really helpful for if you guys get a little bit lost. And then another refresher, we have the different modes. We have real-time and simulation. Real-time is how things would actually work if you did them in real life, in real time. And simulation mode is going to be the mode you're going to use mostly for diagnosing issues. And basically you get to watch the packets and how they travel step by step, and you can analyze them in further detail. So another concept that we will go over a little bit more briefly, because PacketTracer is not too picky about it, is cables. But you do get the option of choosing what kind of cables you want to use for PacketTracer. So if you want to connect like the router and the switch together, you would use some sort of cable. And these are both copper cables, Ethernet cables. So you have a straight through and you have a crossover cable, and they specify the type of devices you're connecting between them. So if you have two switches, for example, you would use a crossover cable. And if you had a switch to a device or a device to switch, you would use a straight through. So here's a really important topic you guys are going to really need to know. It's called a gateway, or it's another term for a router. And essentially, when you set up your device, you're going to see that it asks what the gateway is going to be. And this is where you're specifying that I want to connect to this router. So basically, there's also another concept in this called a next hop. And for example, if you want to traffic or to route traffic from one router to another because that router doesn't connect to that specific LAN that you're trying to specify, you would specify that next hop. And so, for example, if we had, say, two people, and we had a person named Bob and a person named, I don't know, Lily. Say someone in Bob's friend circle is trying to ask about Lily's friend. And so they ask Bob, hey, can you send this package to Lily's friend? Bob doesn't likely know Lily's friend. So Bob would ask Lily. And essentially, Lily would be Bob's next hop in that example, which is the same thing as the routers. So for example, if one router doesn't know a certain network that it does know possibly knows that instead. So it would forward the traffic to that next hop. So to configure a router, we're going to quickly go through a small demo just to maybe give you guys some more details and maybe some more visuals on it. So I'm going to switch over real quick.
Does everyone have the packet tracer downloaded yet? Or does anyone need help downloading it? Okay.
Okay, so now that you guys can see my screen, we're going to quickly go through configuring a router, or specifically, I guess, a mini LAN, a local area network. So we're going to put down a router. We're going to put down a switch, and these are two networking devices that are really important to a system. And then, oh.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. So these are two really important networking devices that we're going to need, a router and a switch. So we're going to put those down, and then we're also going to put, let's say, our client. So then we're going to connect these two through different cables. And if you want to get a little fancy with it, you can also specify the type of cable. So for example, like I mentioned earlier, we can use a copper straight through wire. You can select what port you want it on, and then you can connect it to your client. Just make sure that you select the right interfaces. And then you see over here that this connection is not being established. It's because the interface is not quite up yet. So in order to do that, we can go into our router, go into the command line, and it'll give us some beginning dialogue. We're going to skip through that. And so these are where I described earlier the different configuration modes. So in order to get past this mode, we have to type enable. To get through this mode, to get to the interface, we need to type configure terminal. And then now we can specify these are our connected interfaces, but as you can see, they're all down right now. So if we want to specify which one we want to configure, we just type in the interface. So the earlier command I did was do show IP interface brief, but you can also cut words off. The command line will still know what you're trying to say. And then as you can see through our topology, we can actually see the connections, what their names are and their interfaces. So we want to connect this interface on the router. So we're going to specify that interface. So I'm going to type interface G000. So now we're in that interface's configuration mode. And we can, for example, we can assign an IP address. So I'm going to type an IP address. And let's say I want to do 192.168.1.1. So typically routers, they use the first IP address in a network. So that's what we're going to use. And that's why I chose that. And then we have to specify something called the subnet mask. And subnet masks, you can essentially Google it, but in basic terminology, if you have something called a 24 network, which is CIDR notation for the size of the network, you would just specify 255, 255, 2550. And this is the most common type of subnet mask and net mask you will see. And then now we just enter. And then if we do our do show IP interfaces brief command again, we can see that we have now, it is still unassigned because we have to do a command to turn the interface on. And to do that, so when you're shutting down an interface, you would say shutdown, right? But in Cisco Packet Tracer and in Cisco command line interface in general, you would use the opposite to do certain commands. So I don't want to shut my interface down. I want to do the opposite of that. I want to bring it up. So the command would start with no because no does the opposite or undoes whatever command you're saying. So I would do no shutdown. And we can see that its state is now changed to up. And if we check it again, we can see that it's up. And then if we connect, or if we go back to here, we can see the green light, and this yellow light just means synchronizing. So essentially it's going to take some time. And this is actually, because of how realistic Packet Tracer is, this is actually the same amount of time it would take in real life if you connected this and you configured this, how long it would actually take to get up. Be around 30 seconds to a minute. So now it's up. So that is kind of the more basic version of what you're going to be doing in this lab. And pretty much from here, you're just going to be connecting a bunch of these devices together. So now I'll go back. And now it is your guys' turn. So if you guys have questions, don't be afraid to ask. It's going to be a lot, but it'll start to click and make sense. Just refer to those slides if you get stuck. And I also added some hints for the commands you might need in the documents. So if you get stuck, don't be afraid to ask for help or questions. And yeah, so now it's your guys' turn. And good luck. The what?
The short and long.
The link? Wait, so the...
To the
Like, you want me to add the link up top?
It's like I'm gonna scan it with my phone and then I was like.
So that's what I decided. So that's essentially. But basically.
Well, we're like two different buildings. Or essentially you got so much time. What is that? That's where it was. I like to do
Oh, right.
How did you say? No, I didn't know that. It was really I got it. Sorry, that.
You can, it's just depending. So basically it's a switch.
Oh, yeah.
So just for some extra clarification, you can think of the route, I mean, not the router. You can think of the switch as just a giant extension cable or like a way to like split into more interfaces so that you can connect more devices together. So if you don't have enough ports, you can use the switch to create more ports essentially, in simple terms. So who here is done with task one or close to finishing task one? Cool, okay. So in about 5 minutes here, we are going to do something a little special. So can I get another show of hands for those who were close to finishing task 1? Okay, so now I need one of you to volunteer for a little check-in. Do a little bit of talking. So you just received a message from your hiring manager saying, you may not have seen this coming, but it's time to review your work. How well did you manage to meet our demands? So if you didn't finish or you're a little scared, don't worry. There's no judgment here. Who would like to show off their networking skills? You don't have to be done. Okay.
I don't think I'm ready. Oh, wait.
So now we have to show off.
So what do we say?
What was that?
What do we do?
So screen share. Share screen. Yeah, share. You touch screen, yeah. And then go into your. And then so now you just talk into this and you can explain how you set it up. Or Okay, so now we got someone who is going to show off their network. So how did you set up your network? And yeah, just briefly talk through it.
So firstly, what I did was I set up the computers. So I made 3 computers, and as you can see, if we go to the configure tab, I renamed them to PC 1, 2, and 3. And then for each computer, first we have to set up the default gateway so it can connect to the router. So the IP of the router is 192.168.1.1. So we put the IP in the default gateway. Following this, we have to set up the IP for the computer itself. So we go to fast Ethernet 0 because that's the port in which it's connecting to the router. And here we go to the IPv4 address, and then if you look at the briefing packet, you'll see that this is for the first PC. So I set it to this, and then it's number 2. And for the subnet mask, we did this number as well. And then we did the same thing. I did the same thing for this computer. So if we go to the configure, you go see the gateway, fast Ethernet, and then this one will be 1.3. And this one will be 1.4. Then I connected it to a switch with this cable. I used this black cable. And then if we go here, configure, we change the display name to HR_switch. And how I change the host name through the command line. Let's see. Okay, so basically what I did was first you have to enable it. Enable. And then you will have to go to so in order to use to configure things from the configuration tab from the command line, you type configure. terminal. And then you can change the host name through here. So what I did was I did host name and then change the host name to whatever I wanted. So I think that's how I did it. Anyway. And then I did HR underscore switch. And then I think if I press enter, then it would change the name to it, but it's already the same name, so I didn't need to do that. And then you could also change the IP. I think there's an IP for the switch, right? Or no? No. How did I do that? Oh. And then for the router, you have to set up the IP address for it. And so if you notice here, it connects to the switch and the port it used to connect, so the cable that it would use to connect with the switch, it would be this one gig 0-0-0. So when we go here and we go to the command line, we could oh, right. And then I think I did, oh, so what you have to do is interface. So now we have to do the interface with the port, because for the port gig 0-0-0 would have to set the IP. So I did interface and then we type in the port name. So it'll be gig 0-0-0. Right. And now we would change its IP address. So IP address. And then for this specific department, it was 198, right? 192.168. I think that's what it was. And then you have to do the subnet masking, right? So we do 255.2. And then you press, let's see if I did it right, right? You press enter and then, yeah, after that, you'd have to do the show. So yeah, what was it? Huh?
No.
Yeah, and so and to enable it, so like it can connect, you type no shutdown. And how do you check if it works? So if you look at here, this is the command you use. Huh? This is the command you would use to see if it's working, and you press enter. And so as you can see through this port that we're using to connect to the switch, you can see this is that we assign the IP address to it. And then we can see that it's manual up, and then it's up and ready. And then for this one, I haven't finished this one yet, but it's essentially the same thing. You would go to the router, set its IP address, and then connect it to the switch.
Thank you. Very good work. So now you guys can just continue working. And if you're ready, you can go on to task 2. If not, no worries. You guys have plenty of time to do this at home if you guys would like to continue. This is your packet tracer download, so you guys don't have to worry about getting anything like shut down or anything. You can keep working on it as long as you'd like. So unfortunately, we are reaching the end of the workshop. Thank you all so much for coming. There's a lot of you that made a lot of progress today. And I'm really happy that you guys got to see more about PacketTracer. So like I said earlier, feel free to continue messing around with this on your own time. PacketTracer, it's yours to keep. It's not like a VM that we're going to shut down or anything. So yeah. The briefing packet will stay up too. If you want, you can also DM me, Rosenglass, on Discord if you need any help or anything like that. I'll try my best to help you as much as possible. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you.